Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to make flowers that look like zinnias or chrysanthemums or anything that's very has a lot of petals and very detailed, but more detailed than just a basic flat flower, like a flat daisy that you would normally just cut and fill and that's it. So this is the scalloped cutter that I used. This is the mini. I also have one that's larger. So we're going to work on both so you can see the difference. The consistency of my icing is probably about a medium. It's thick enough to come out, but it doesn't automatically stick together. So I would say this is more of a 20-second icing. If you were to look at Sweet Sugar Belle's information, she would say this is probably more of a 20-second icing. So it holds, but yet at the same time, it's not so stiff that I can't manipulate it. So there's two ways you can do this. One, you can just squeeze and have dots as the petals, or you can actually have more of a looped look. So we're gonna do both because I've got extra cookies and we might as well work on them. So, all right, so you don't wanna start all the way in the middle because otherwise you'll have a massive tall center, and a flower doesn't necessarily bow up, right? So if you want the 3-dimension the same, you want to keep as much icing in the middle as possible so that way you can be able to add a center at the end. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the loops. You'll notice that I'm just barely looping. I bring it up and touch again. If there's space in between, sometimes I'll go back through and put another one on top. The thing about a zinnia is that they're not perfectly made. Each one is different. That's why I like things like this and snowflakes, because you can really add to it or take away. It's all up to you. But mainly, I just want to get that first layer of loops on, so that way I can go back and add things in between. All right, so let's just take a look here. So you'll notice there's some extra spacing over here. It's not quite even. That's totally fine. The main thing I want to fix is some of these ones that have bigger spaces in between. Maybe just give them a little bit more of a squeeze. You'll notice I'm using one of those icing bags that I just cut the tip off. My tip is probably the size of a number 4 or number 5 tip. So again, it's better to cut a smaller hole than a bigger one. So try it at first on wax paper. If your hole is too small, cut a little bit bigger. All right, let's just go back through and fill a couple in. All right, and then I'm gonna leave that for now. And so what we'll do is we'll probably add another layer of shorter petals and then fill in the center. Okay, so I'm gonna just take this. If you're worried about touching the sides or messing up the sides, you can use your pusher, push it off onto your hand, and then put it on your sheet to dry. So just so you can see, here's one that I've already worked on. Okay, so that bottom layer is dry. You can tell it's got a little bit of hardening. It's not near as shiny. So when it's shiny, it usually means it's still wet, unless you've dried it overnight and blown a fan on it, then it's dry. I boogered this one up here, so I'm just gonna go back and put a little petal up there real quick. All right, so now I'm gonna do some that are a little bit shorter and probably not as many, right? Because the flower, you're not gonna have the same number of petals on the inside as you do the outside. All right, so I have a little, see, you always want to be careful. Don't go berserk and extra touch like me. I'm just gonna bring this in. I don't like all these little dots, because if I go to add the center and those are showing, that's gonna look not very realistic. There's a little bubble here, so I'm just gonna pop him and wiggle him back. This loop right here is a little big, so I'm going to go back and fill him in a little bit so he looks more like a petal than just a loop. All right. Okay, so to me this one looks pretty good. Once it's dry, then we'll just add a center onto it. I would use, on these, I'm going to use like a cream color. to put on there because this is a fall kind of based wedding. So put a little cream color on there in the center. Maybe put a couple dots on the center to look like the pollen, and then it's done. So let me show you the dot method. Actually, let's start from the beginning. So this is one of the smaller ones as well, and so this is the other one where you just squirt and you pull in. So this would be a great starter one, and then if you want to move up to the loops, you can. But you'll notice I'm just going to squeeze and push, squeeze and push, squeeze and push. Maybe it's squeeze and pull. Squeeze and pull down. You don't have to spin your cookie. You could do it and pull in. You know, just watch where your dots are. Try not to go over the cookie. Again, this is the same consistency that I used on my burgundy cookie. So I'm just going to pull these in. Just makes it easier when I have to add layers in later. I have a little bit more of a flat space in the middle. Okay. And again, they don't have to be perfect. They're not always going to be the same. So this one I'm going to let dry. And then let's work on one that I already have some done. So this is not completely dry. This has probably been drying maybe 20-30 minutes. So they're firm, but they're not, so that way they're not going to bleed into the new dots I'm adding. So I'm going to go ahead and just squeeze again and pull in. Something that I always struggle with is overthinking on these cookies, and it's not very good for time management if I'm sitting here obsessing about every little dot or every little thing. You know, of course you want to fix mistakes. You want your items to look clean and to look crisp, but at the end of the day, it's a cookie, so you don't want to overdo it. So these I'm going to go ahead and let dry. There's a little dot right here I want to get out. Looks like a little dot of icing that didn't blend in. Okay, so this one I'm going to let dry, and then we'll go back in and fill again. So let me show you. Let's use one more of these. So he's already dry, like the one we just did. So now I'm going to go back in and put a dot, fill in. I kind of like this one. It has a different look to it. I don't know if you can hear, but Hank is asleep and he's dreaming. Sounds like he is sad. Hope he's not having a nightmare. All right. So let's take this. So you see all these dots in the middle again. And you can see how it's getting a little thick in the middle. So I'm going to pull some of that up. I just take my little boo-boo stick, pull up some of that extra icing, and then I wipe it off on a damp paper towel. And that gives me a little more room to be able to maybe add one more layer in there and go forth. But you can see where some of these are blending in and touching. It's not the end of the world, but in theory you want your petals to be kind of distinguished, right? Just like a real flower. And if you ever get stuck or you struggle with how it should look, just pull up an actual image of a flower. See what it looks like. You know, get your idea. It doesn't have to look like somebody else's cookie. You want it to look like the actual flower, right? So let's do one of these. Same thing. I like this burgundy. This is a good color for fall. Okay. All right. So that's that for now. I'm going to let these dry, and then of course add more layers on, and then put the centers in the middle. Thanks. Bye.